Okay, tuning considerations. When you get ready to make this thing really go, first of all, it wasn't an option for me to not install the extremely beautiful twin blade throttle body on this motor. Uh, this particular one is a BBK. It actually is part of the turbo kit that I'm getting ready to put into it. But even the factory one, extremely beautiful. It looks like a sculpture sitting there on the front of the motor. That's going to be one of your biggest tuning considerations. Reason being, the info is not as widely available as I think it should be. But I think each one of these throttle bodies has a relative voltage that has to be adjusted by taking off the idle air control valve, I guess it is. Uh, in which case you kind of spin a screw around or something like that. Please look at the BBK website, and it'll explain to you how you have to match the voltage of your new throttle body versus your old one. That one caused me at least 2 weeks worth of confusion. Fuel injectors. Um, there is a website, EFI Dyno Tuning, and one of the I don't know if he's a proprietor of it or if he's like one of the most active members of it, but his name's Decipher, and he's over in Kenner, Louisiana, which I think is about 6 hours away from Houston. And once I've got this thing running, I have every intention of taking it over to him so he can do what he does on it. I don't know if you've done enough research, you've been asking all the right questions, and you've come across him. And if you ask him a question, he's probably gone out of his way to help you out. Um, so a lot of the information was provided on EFI Dyno Tuning. And for a guy who's just recently learned how to tune, I've got to tell you, I've been through multiple types of software. The whole subscription thing is nonsense to me. I know how all this stuff works. So, paying the nerds, as much money as I paid for my motor to get it running is just not really an option for me. Fortunately for us, there are plenty of super smart guys who can make these things do wheel stands, and they're very giving of their talent and time, unlike most Ford guys. For instance, you can get on a Chevy website and figure out how to make your car jump over the moon in a couple of days because their guys are cooler. So, shout out to those EFI dyno tuning community guys, and there's a number of those HP tuner guys too. They're legit. So they've motivated me to be as helpful as I can to everyone else trying to do this same swap. Shoot. So tuning considerations. First step, you'll need to basically buy fuel injectors. It's some kind of scam that Ford information is not necessarily available, or what you need to input into your tuning software for you to be able to use factory fuel injectors with custom tuning. I'm sure a number of people may have figured it out, but I hadn't been able to find accurate enough information to make my stock fuel injectors 3 or 4 different sets run properly. Once again, EFI dyno tuning, there's some write-ups on how to make mystery injectors work right, but I didn't have much luck with it. Cue the aftermarkets. 39s are super readily available, and I've seen those for the cheapest just about everywhere, and that information for those is easily available. EFI dyno tuning recommends you start off with 60-pound injectors, which is enough to make a smaller engine still be able to run pretty well, but enough fuel flow so that you never have to really worry about upping them for, unless you decide you're going to put on a particle accelerator or something. But proper injector information, you'll have to enter all that. You'll have to first step tune your math, and your math for your injectors work like the left hand and the right hand. If either of those doesn't work well, nothing else will work well. You'll get into situations where you think it should be running and it doesn't, or it starts running but barely. You got to feather throttles, etc., etc. You got your math tuned, your injectors tuned, and your throttle tuned and all that. please double check your PCV valves. What I suspect is one of these does not have the PCV valve, because every time I go to launch it, it kind of bogs, and I think it's because it's getting unmetered air, which a PCV valve with unmetered air is basically just an intake leak. You've got that. What else is there? Turbulence. I'm pretty sure I'm getting a lot of turbulence with this giant filter being right here next to my MAF sensor. It's recommended, and a little bend right after it. It's recommended that you have such and such a length of straight section. But my turbo kit has a slot style, which will be going on there, and it's got built-in filters and things like that, so should work out really well. Oh, the dipstick, transmission dipstick. I have to cut the bracket off, orient the thing, and then TIG weld that bracket back on there in an orientation to where I was able to put in like one or two of the major bolts back there. Speaking of which, when you get ready to swap this motor out, be sure to look into the pilot bearing bore and make sure there is no tiny little pilot bearing if you got the motor off a Mustang, because you'll be sitting here spending 2 weeks trying to figure out why your motor won't go all the way back and what's wrong with the torque converter. Don't ask me how I know that. You know, you get into a rush putting something like this in, you can't wait to do your wheel stands, and you know, you make stupid baby mistakes, but you know, all part of the learning. So something else to mention with the tuning, timing. In order to, I actually have another F-150 over there that I pulled the information from. It happens to be a 3-valve, a 4.63 valve. You can find the tunes available online also that have spark tables, etc., etc., for the motor, which you can then transplant into your particular ECU and get you about 90% of the way there. But just something to consider. I've been tuning this since April. It's now January. It's still not where it needs to be. Granted, I've made a number of big mistakes that I think I'll probably do a separate tuning only video where I share my tunes and a log of my months, the 3 seasons worth of mistakes that slowed me down, and save you guys some time. But even regardless of all that, you guys should plan on taking it to a guy who does great turbo tuning, because as I understand it, if you can do it conservatively enough, you can get your car tuned properly, or your truck tuned properly, to where you can take advantage of it and tune the turbo without blowing it up. But for people that do it for a living, for instance, they got Pikes Tuning here in Houston. If you don't want to take it all the way to Kenner, like if you have to get it trailered or something, I think it's Pikes. They've got a great reputation. The guy's done a couple of videos online, which, you know, I'd much rather spend my money with an upstanding member of the auto enthusiast community than the douchebags that I spent money with online. I'll tell you, to me, that's just not an option based on the performance I've gotten out of other vehicles. So, if y'all got questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll get on in. Probably consider, like I said, I'll probably do another tuning video that shows y'all all the mistakes I made over the 9 months, and how far it's gotten me, and how you guys can save yourselves that time. Thank you.